Now, Executive Suite with WPRI.com reporter Ted Nesi.
The stakes could hardly be higher for the I-195 Redevelopment District Commission. State leaders created the panel in 2011 to develop 27 acres in downtown Providence made available by the I-Way project, giving the commission the chance and the responsibility to shape the city's geography for generations to come. In April, the commission took title to the now vacant parcels, and workers broke ground on the rebuilding of streets and installing of underground utilities, with much more to come over the next 2.5 years. But the biggest questions remain unanswered. Who will actually establish offices and other facilities where 195 used to be? And will they give a jolt to Rhode Island's struggling economy? This week on Executive Suite, the new Executive Director of the I-195 Commission, Jan Brodie, and 195 Commission Chairman, Colin Kane. Welcome to Executive Suite. I'm Ted Nesi, and I'm pleased to be joined on the panel by my friend Patrick Anderson. He's a staff writer at Providence Business News, where he covers real estate and development. He knows these issues well, so he's going to help me out on the expertise side of this show. And I want to thank Colin and Jan for joining me. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
And congratulations on the new gig. How long have you been in the job now so far?
Just over 2 weeks.
Just over 2 weeks, so we're bringing right into the fire here. Colin, I want to start simple. I said in the intro, 27 acres. We were just discussing beforehand how there's different ways you can count the acres and end up. So just give us, how much land is the commission responsible for, and where do things stand with it?
So Ted, thank you and Patrick for having us. Appreciate the opportunity to talk about what we've done over the past 18 months, what we're going to do over the next,
however many
years it takes, and certainly in the immediate months ahead. There's approximately 40 acres, Ted, that was freed up by the demolition of the former Interstate 195. Of that 40 acres, roughly 20 of those acres are buildable, meaning we can put building on top of them. 7 of those acres are open space and parks, and the balance is city sidewalks and city streets. So it's not complicated math. They are a lot of different complicated parcels.
Parcels to piece together. Jan, you've just come on board, as we said, as the executive director. Why'd you take the job, and what's sort of your vision for the commission's role in bringing this forward?
I've been aware of the 195 change and the relocation of the highways for a while. I worked in Providence about 5 years ago and loved working here. I love the city. And I feel that my background, almost everything I've done has led up to this. To me, it's a culmination of my career, and I took it because I want to be part of Providence's future.
And that is really the big question here. I'll bring Patrick in a minute. The vision for this land, there's been so much talk about it, sort of the knowledge economy, high growth, high tech. But at the same time, we see Lifespan shrinking its budget. We see Brown University putting engineering on College Hill. And it does certainly raise questions about who's actually going to use this. Is there demand? What do you think of that, Colin? Is the vision changing at all, or do you still see that being where you go with this?
Well, before we talk about the vision, let me just talk about how long this process has taken and what's likely to happen prospectively. There's a perspective, I think, amongst a lot of Rhode Islanders that we can't do big things well, that we can't make long-term commitments to doing the right thing. The highway relocation project literally is a 25-year-old project. It took that long to understand and re-engineer the location, build the new highway, which functions extraordinarily well, and take down the old highway.
That was the famous I-Way project.
It is the famous I-Way project, and the Interstate 195 Redevelopment Commission is the last component piece of that. So this extraordinary once-in-a-generation opportunity to reconnect what was rented in 1952 when they built the highway. So we'll be reconnecting what's really quite interesting, this vision that everyone wants to talk about. It's not a one-size-fits-all. As one might imagine when you drove over that highway, it's 1 linear mile. It's not a big industrial park. So we have parcels at the bottom of Wickenden Street that support a townhome. And we have parcels adjacent to Interstate 95 that can put 500,000 square feet of office on top. So I don't think it's a one-size-fits-all relative to what will happen, because I think each parcel is very unique.
Well, then I guess the question would be, how do you decide who takes what then? Are you marketing? Do you think it's going to be half mixed use, half facilities? I mean, people want to get a sense, I guess, of what you're going to be trying to get on this land.
I'll take that one. There is no one size fits all in my view, and I think that in all the people I've spoken to thus far over the past month, most would agree that it is mixed use, it's mixed income, it is open space, it's art, it's business, it's everything that Providence and Rhode Island already are, and then some. And what we're going to try and do is put together a master view, a frameworks for developers to use. It's not any one set of rules and regulations. It's a number of ideas, and what we're trying to do is cultivate interest, not just within Rhode Island and Providence, but also outside its borders, so that it both is an expansion of what's here, as well as a generation of some new businesses, new ideas. It's meant to make Providence even better. It already is great, and so I don't want to think that it's just going to come from the outside. There is a lot going on here that's unique and only here, which I really hope to expand upon. It's arts, what's going on over in the hospitals, obviously with the institutions, with Brown and Johnson & Wales. That's all strength, and what's hoped for is to just add to it. We're trying to build some excitement and to get other states, our neighbors, Connecticut, New York, Massachusetts, to know how great it is here and to come.
Since this process began, Rhode Islanders and leaders have been talking about jobs and trying to use this as a catalyst to bring more business here. Then on the other hand, we've heard some pretty pessimistic reports about the office market, especially the recent reports about the Superman building. Do people have unrealistic expectations right now about what the demand for that land is, especially among corporate users?
I think there's a lot of hope, and I think we share the hope. I think the entire commission shares the hope, and there's going to be a need to get awareness out. It's one of the first things I plan to do is to let people know how long it takes and just what's going to go on over the next 2 months, 4 months, 6 months. And then, as I said before, it's to get the word out, to make it that people want to come here. Most states are doing the same thing, that need to create more jobs. So how do we make and how do we position Providence and Rhode Island as something special? There are plenty of reasons, so that's not a hard job to do, but it is something that goes beyond just talking amongst ourselves. It's a different way of doing business, perhaps. It's being on panels, getting out to trade organizations, talking to businesses, and to work on making the business environment here more attractive, more competitive, and more invitational.
But Colin, we have a lot of surface parking lots, for example. If there was a significant interest, maybe some of those would have been bought by now and built up. The Capitol Center, it's been 30 years. I mean, what would be different about the 195 land from the land we have now that isn't being utilized by corporate and employers?
Well, I've got to discount a little bit what Patrick said. The office market in Providence is not as soft as people describe. We have some big holes. 111 Westminster, the Superman building, is a big hole, but it's not modern office space. It doesn't really count in my mind relative to what a modern corporate user would want to have. But we don't have the math to do speculative office construction at this point. But this is true in every setting in the country, with the possible exception of Manhattan. We need users. We need corporate users that want to invest here in Rhode Island, here in Providence. What is unique about the 195 land, Ted, is that we own the dirt. When someone is looking at those surface parking lots, they have to deal with a third-party owner. We're not only the owner of the dirt, we're the steward, the permitting agency, and we'll be able to lay out for that corporate user an absolutely predictable path that basically is, this is what you have to do. We've done all the pre-development work, the environmental, the permitting, the design standards, and if you do X, you will get your permit within a very, very short period of time.
So if Google called you on your way out of the studio and said, we want to move from California to Rhode Island, how quickly could you have them getting ready to start building?
Truthfully, the commission won't be in the way. What will be in the way will be the timeline associated with putting sewers and infrastructure in the ground. Understand, before any building comes up on these parcels, we have to create the public infrastructure underneath. which I think, again, as everyone drives by the land and is not excited about what's happening because they can't see it, the truth is there's over $50 million of investment going into the property now. That is the reconnection of these city streets, both on the west side, the downtown side, and beginning this summer on the east side, on South Warner and South Main Street.
All right, we're overdue for a break, but when we come back, we'll have a lot more questions about what's the future of the 195 land. Stick with us on Executive Suite. Welcome back to Executive Suite. I'm Ted Nisi. Joining me on the panel this week is Patrick Anderson. He's staff writer for Providence Business News, and we're joined by the 195 Commission's chairman, Colin Kane, and new executive director, Jan Brodie. Patrick.
So are there companies who are hearing about this, who know all the work you've been doing and know this land will be available, that are contacting you right now?
We've had, I'll call it drive-by level of interest, which is typical for any project in this state. And the economy is just beginning, Patrick, to come out of the downturn. So investment capital is beginning to look outside core markets. For the past 4 or 5 years, they've been solely focused, that investment capital, on Manhattan, Boston, Austin, San Francisco, and Washington, D.C. So that has changed, and I would say that is literally over the last 2 quarters that we've started to see investment capital leaking out of the core markets. And I think Providence is very much, will be a beneficiary, and always is a beneficiary as the cycle begins to come up. We've had a few folks that have, kind of conceptual projects that we've taken a very preliminary look at. They're informal applications. We're not in a position yet to formally review applications. We're not yet ready to formally issue competitive RFPs. I certainly feel very strongly, and I think Jan does as well, that we have an obligation to the state of Rhode Island to compete this property and get the best qualified, best projects that are done on our terms, so we can realize highest and best use for the dirt.
Walk us through what is the current timeline going forward for I know you have other steps, not just building, the other steps going forward. What is the timeline? Either one of you can take this to start the street building and the sewers and everything else.
Initially, it's working on the west side and doing the streets and sewers and the infrastructure on the land on the west side. And then in the end of the summer, they'll move over to the east side and do the same over there.
They being National Grid?
DOT.
DOT, okay.
And,
National Grid, Providence Water.
All of the utility companies. And then what follows after that is the park and then the bridge. So it's staggered. And they will be complete. Roughly the last piece of it will be done in about 2 years.
Okay. And then at that point, you can have Google come in. Just again, there's no report that I know of that Google's coming. But
call them up, Joe.
I know they watch Executive Suite out there. But
road trip.
Excellent.
But then how long should people be thinking? I mean, you sort of indicated before, this is a very long-term project. People maybe shouldn't be expecting this land to be filled by 2017.
It's not going to be done in any 1 year. We will be taking, as Colin mentioned, proposals now. It's not that we're going to say no to anybody, but we can't act on them. So we will hear people. And as time moves forward, as DOT finishes in one section versus another section, we will be developing our own framework and guidelines so that we can professionally review some of these proposals. And what we're trying to do is not have one-offs, to have it thought through, have it professionally handled, and to put it all together so that a developer or an investor, business comes in, they know what the zoning is. They know what kind of a fit study they'd have a fit study in front of them to know. The building could be 6 stories. It needs these kind of setbacks. There is a walking trail through here that we have to honor. They will all know that so that no one developer has a leg up, and it's really handled professionally and fairly.
Knowing how long this is going to take, I think a lot of folks, especially when they drive by or walk by the currently vacant lands, either talk to you or talk to others and say, why can't we put a farmer's market or a tree farm, or why can't we have concerts there? That's unlikely to happen. Can you explain why?
The soils are contaminated. Just like most urban fill in all of the Northeast, there are contaminants in the soil that we have to basically cover. About 2 feet worth of fill needs to go on top to make it safe. And we know those facts, so we cannot act otherwise. The research has been done, it is recorded, and it has to be honored. So we can't have people just walking on and off, and we certainly can't have things growing in those soils. That would beg the question that people could come in with planters and place those planters on top of the soil. But still, how would you get water to it? How would you get people coming and going and actively using that land? In addition, we need to focus on how we're going to get the message out to the world that this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity is there. So our time has to be carefully managed to not be sidetracked, to just work on one
Ultimate
corner,
Frisbee championship.
one corner or another.
You know.
But some people are already using that land
Right.
for shadow parking, which has become a controversy. And I can see Colin just itching to say
Right, but
something
before
about
he
it.
jumps on that, because I know he wants to talk about that, I will say that we are looking at interim uses that would be eye-catching, a way to somehow or other use it as a marketing opportunity, so that
Public art, perhaps?
Perhaps. We're going to look into any of those kind of options that do two things at once, both activate the land as well as get a word out that this is happening and what is happening.
So I mentioned shadow parking. What's the deal? People are unhappy that there's parking happening on some of the vacant land.
Well, one is I'm very excited that shadow parking has become a term of art because I made it up.
Did you copyright it?
We brought it. The commission brought it to the public's attention openly in our last meeting about 3 weeks ago. Quite frankly, I think we failed. I failed as a chairman to get it fixed right away. It is being fixed in the next several days. Obviously, people want to take advantage of available parking that's free. I think it highlights, one, that we have parking demand, two, that we take responsibility for ownership, and we failed to get it fixed. But we're fixing it now. We're going to learn. We're going to be as responsive as we can as a...
Is fixing mean blocking
We're going to
it
block
off?
it off.
Block it off. And then how about is maintenance, the grass and everything, that's in your
That's
control as well now?
underway.
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 And we have a very good contractor who is taking it very seriously.
All right, we're overdue for a break. When we come back, more about the 195 land, what's next, and what the vision is from the commission that's in charge of those acres. Don't miss another minute. Stay with us on Executive Suite. Welcome back to Executive Suite. I'm Ted Nisi. I'm joined on the panel by Patrick Anderson of Providence Business News and our guests from the 195 Commission, Chairman Colin Kane and new Executive Director Jan Brodie. I want to ask you, a proposal by Carpianato made the front page of the Providence Journal for I think one side. It was the east side of the parcel. Has the Commission weighed in on that? It got a lot of publicity.
Well, we certainly we have met with the representatives of Carpianato Properties. They made a presentation which was in concept only. It was not a formal review. It's not the only presentation that we've had for those properties that are on the east side of the Providence River. It goes to the question that Patrick asked earlier. Have people expressed interest? Yes. Are we maintaining a list of those interested parties? Yes. Are we inviting them to come in and kind of share their just ideas with us as a data point? Yes. Jan, any thoughts?
And it's an example of what we were just talking about. It's a proposal that we'll certainly entertain, but we're waiting to have a more professionally, thoroughly thought through way to review proposals like that. Right now, it's just information. They have an interest in doing this. We don't know how feasible. We don't know exactly their program of uses. We don't know how it would tie in to other parcels in the overall 195 land. So what we're trying to do is hold on, tell them to just sit tight, and we'll take it in stride. And hopefully within about 5, maybe 6 months, we will be able to seriously review all such proposals.
Do you have the resources you need, you being the commission, need now to market and analyze and sell or lease these properties? Or are you going to have to bring in their consultants or someone else?
We have we certainly have the funding resources, and through the state and a lot of support. We also have at our hand lots of support coming from city and state through the planning department, through Providence Foundation, Rhode Island Foundation, the institutions, Everybody has been very, very gracious. I know the Chamber is working on marketing, and I know Providence Foundation is as well. We're piggybacking on a lot of initiatives that others are already doing. We'll be doing our own. We'll be hiring graphics and marketing people to help us with website and with public awareness. And otherwise, we're going to be a collaborative team with many other officials.
Can I just touch on that a little bit?
Sure.
I just want to say, we're going to try to minimize our staff. The purpose of the 195 Redevelopment Commission is not to create another giant bureaucracy. We're going to run as leanly as we can. And to Jan's point, leverage those resources that the state and the city already have. We have some exceptionally talented organizations, state agencies. We have gotten very far over the past 18 months with almost no resources because we've had the extraordinary support of the city, of other state agencies, EDC, Department of Environmental Management, Coastal Resources, Narragansett Bay Commission. Narragansett Grid has been a great partner. So we're going to continue to rely on those resources that exist and utilize them as partners.
I want to circle back, Colin, to what we were talking about at the beginning, just that where are we going to find the tenants who for the side of this, when people think this, they're not thinking about apartments. They're thinking about high-wage jobs. They're imagining Kendall Square in Providence. I mean, can the institutions that are already in Rhode Island support that, or are we absolutely going to have to find people outside, and how are we going to do that?
We're going to put the Channel 12 global headquarters down there.
Would be nice place to film.
And maybe the world's biggest Dell's Lemonade. This fascinating sort of apologetic perspective of Providence and of Rhode Island is just lost on me. If we went back 5 years and looked what was going on in Rhode Island relative to corporate expansion, building construction in downtown Providence, you would see, maybe $1 billion worth of investment. We hit a bad cycle. The whole world hit a bad economic cycle, and Rhode Island was hit badly. Perhaps a bit worse because our unemployment numbers are higher. But I would rather be in Providence and not to offend another city, but than in Portland or Nashua or Springfield, Worcester. I think we are the preeminent New England city.
Really?
I do.
Not Boston?
That's an international city. That's an international city.
Okay.
I think we're the preeminent New England city.
And to add to that, I think that Providence offers a lifestyle that you can't necessarily get in some of these other places, and it's something that needs to be promoted. It may not be 100,000 square foot user comes miraculously to the city, but it could be a smaller version of some of those that are currently now seeking out space in Kendall Square, which I don't think that 195 wants to be. It's a different kind of, it's a campus. This isn't a campus.
What would you compare it to, very briefly?
I would compare it to a city that has been knit together with, these are infill lots. If you look at the shape of some of them, they are a part of an existing city block.
All right, I have to cut you off there. Thank you for watching Executive Suite. Thank you, Patrick Anderson, Colin Kane, Jan Brodie for tuning in. If you missed the show, catch it on our website, WPRI.com. See you next week on Executive Suite.